think at 86, nearly 86, and me at 87, so that over the years both of us have lived on this earth, we have known each other for more than 75 years. I knew him when he was perhaps 14 and I was 15 at a place called Nyaruhanga in the district of Rwanda, where he hailed from himself and where my late father, Ernest Nyawagabo, Reverend Ernest Nyawagabo Canon, served as a pastor at that place, Nyaruhanga. The other associate who was passed on that we lived and interacted with was Professor Jason Kwesiga, whom we also sent off a couple of months ago. After our interaction in Nyaruhanga, that was during the times of colonialism. It was just a couple of years after the Second World War, and we lived in a period of excitement, including the East African revival, of which we called ourselves the Sons of the Revival. So we had a lot of things to talk about. But from there, both him and I went to Kigezi High School, and subsequently he went on to Usoga College, Mwiri, and on to UK, where he performed a string, he got a string of achievements, both in the academic sphere, as a scholar, and also as a teacher in some of the most prestigious universities in the UK, before coming back to Uganda and Makerere to continue his academic work in law and some other spheres. George and I then interacted later after the launch of the Bush War. I was the chairman of the Global External Committee, and George Kanyihamba was a member of our London branch, or our UK branch, which was very active. But because George, as you know, is not a wonderful team player, so although he was a member of the London branch, he was never satisfied to operate through the branch. So he found it convenient, whenever he had questions to ask or messages to convey to President Museveni, he found it necessary for him to fly to Nairobi, where we had our headquarters, to interact with me and tell me what his views were, and also ask me to communicate those views to President Museveni, at that time Museveni, who was the leader of the Bush War, which was being prosecuted. Now, when we die, as we say these days, when we pass on, each one of us knows and remembers George Kanyihamba individually because of the interaction they have had with him. It's only on an occasion like this, and the period we've had over the last 1 week and more, that we have multitude, literally hundreds of comments, of tributes being made about Kanyihamba. And many of them, we are hearing them for the first time. At the end of which, all of us know George Kanyihamba better than we knew him before. So we know George Kanyihamba better in death than we knew him in life. Mercifully, what has transpired over the last week, from all the tributes and the things which I've said about him, have shown that George Kanyihamba is greater than we thought he was when we knew him in life, which is a big, big achievement. So that as we bury and say goodbye to George Kanyihamba, we know that we have sent off somebody who is greater in death than he was when he was still living on this earth. I think that in his last days, George knew that he had accomplished what he was born to do and what he was supposed to do. And Almighty God, and from what we have heard, was happy that he had been able to achieve so much for himself, for his family, and for the country. Now, he has gone. And in his last years, George Kanyihamba has tended to drift from his traditional background of law, politics, as we knew, to perhaps something I can describe as spiritual. About 1 year ago, we had the celebration of Kanyihamba's celebration of his marriage with Susan here. And she came with her daughter from London to come and attend. How do you say? 60 years. 60 years in marriage. Now, Kanyihamba, although he was frail and weak, in his speech, he made something that was unusual and seems to surprise everybody who was there. He talked about monkeys. He said that in the neighborhood and in the trees around, there were several monkeys which lived there and from time to time came down from the trees to look for something to eat. But they had never come to his compound, not even once, as far as he could remember. But surprisingly, that day, when we were there to celebrate with him the anniversary of his wedding, these monkeys came into his compound and started playing. But George was saying this one without even smiling, with a straight face, and making a serious statement, saying that he was really surprised that these monkeys had finally come into his compound to play. And he said that in his view, these monkeys had also come to celebrate the anniversary of his wedding. Remember? Now, we thought, or many people thought this was humor or he was making a joke. But George was not making a joke. He was not laughing, he was not smiling, he was taking the presence of these monkeys in his compound extremely seriously as something that signified something that was very unusual and which he took as a very serious event. Eventually, when I went home, and I wrote this thing in my diary, I thought that when we see things happening, some of us interpret it differently. I think that the presence of these monkeys in his compound and the game they were playing, and his association of those monkeys with the event meant something that we could not explain. Only George knew what he thought about. Now, finally, because I don't want to make a long speech, George invited me to come to his home and have a chat. And on that day, he was going for his medical procedure in the hospital, which usually took place at night. And he went there about 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was informed that I should go at his home at about 10 or 11. As I was on the way going, I got a telephone from Dennis here that George had not arrived, that I should go back home and come again. But on my way out, I got a telephone call that he had arrived. And I went back. George was frail and so on, but he was happy to see me. And one of the things he told me when we met and talked was that, because I told him that we were praying for him, he told me that nkabonekerwa Rukikaire nanye nkabonekerwa nkashururwa yakira nko mu Rukikaire erundi nk'eshatu kandi yagaruka ya closing message. Now, I was very, very happy yesterday to hear that Miriam Matembe, who was also a very close associate with George, testified that, in fact, George became a saved person or a born-again Christian, which showed to me that what he had told me, that when I went to see him, was in fact the truth, that he had finally made his Savior. Now, I am happy, and I want to believe that George has also gone to heaven in glory, and wish him a glorious eternal stay in heaven, where I think he is now. I thank you very much.